That's
Hello.
very good.
Hello.
So detailed.
Yes, well, I'm trying to capture the dimensions, really, for perspective for a painting. But the problem for an artist is, how do you capture over 1,000 years of history?
Well, that's why I'm here. I'm just trying to understand a bit more about England's culture and heritage and instill some interest in the children, because they just don't learn about it in history at school in the way they used to.
Yes, well, you certainly come to the right place. Because when the Romans arrived, it was just a vast forest from Kent right the way through Sussex. And then when the Anglo-Saxons came, about 450, they started to build their churches, and this is, as I say, over 1,000 years, this church. And they called it the Weald, the Great Weald, and it was herds of deer and wild animals, and they used to bring their guests.
I understand the church is mentioned in the Domesday Book, is that right?
Well, yes, it is. There's rather a nice story about that. The Norman that was compiling the information for Domesday for this area, he was being guided by a young Anglo-Saxon lad, and they couldn't find it. So the Norman said, well, it can't be worth much.
Lovely, good story.
There's another interesting point, that if you look at the walls of most of the churches now, they've got a lime wash, a whitewash, and this goes back to the days of the plague. You see, there was a plague in the 14th century as well as the 17th century, and so the church council thought it would be a good idea to whitewash with lime the walls to protect the people from the plague. And what it also did was to cover up beautiful murals on the walls. So we lost the art in that sense, but it's history and art.
A shame.
The doorways, the south and the north door, there was a door there. And when they used to have christenings, at the point of the night when the child was actually christened, they used to slam the north door, and that was slamming out the devil. And so the child would be a Christian forever. The other interesting feature, of course, is the shape of the doors there. There's a small door today, but years ago they used to be the full height. And this was because of the nobility and the lords of the manor, as it were. They could ride in on their horses. Even a knight in armour could come in on his horse. There was most probably straw on there, no central heating, of course. And he would do his devotions or have communion, and then he would ride out the north door without getting off the horse.
Lovely. Things have changed.
These windows here, they are truly unique. There are some similar to it at Dover Castle, but I think that you'll find no other church with windows like that.
Why were they that high?
Well, it is said that it was a sanctuary. If you think of the days that not only the Vikings, but we had raiders that could come and rob and pillage, and so that the inhabitants, just a small community, could retreat to the church, slam the doors closed, and the windows were so high that people couldn't get in that way. So it truly was not only a church sanctuary as a religious sanctuary, but of course it was sanctuary to the body. You could protect the citizens.
I didn't think you could find so much history in such a small church.
Oh, there's still a lot more. I personally happen to believe that in 1066, before the Battle of Hastings, King Harold, on his way down with his army, was encamped just 3 miles north of here. And I think that being a very religious people, as I said, and a king, he would have got on his horse and rode those 3 miles to come to this lovely church, which he'd have known about, to pray. And of course, then we have this beautiful arch. It's said to be the largest arch in the Saxon world of churches. It's 22 feet high and 14 foot wide. It's rugged but beautiful. And of course, you see, the churchyard has got as much history as the church.
But if the church has been here 1,000 years, why are there so few graves here?
Well, up to about 1600, the Shakespearean period, there would have been wooden crosses and wooden markers. after that period, they would have engraved stones.
So the wood's all decayed.
Exactly. As the priest would say, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. There's rather an interesting stone I'd like to show you over here.
Please. This one?
My friend so dear, as you pass by, so as you are, so once was I. And as I am, so shall you be. Remember death and think on me.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Are there any famous people buried here?
Oh yes, there are. We have a particular one over here, Robert Whitehead, invented the torpedo.
Oh.
And also his great-granddaughter married into the Von Trapp family. Do you remember the film The Sound of Music? This is his grave here.
Oh yes.
And of course the graveyard is now a reserve conservation area. We like to keep it with the wildflowers, and of course you will get occasionally, you'll get a deer run through, a wild deer
lovely. Yes.
from the old Weald. Of course there used to be herds of deer in the old days, even wild boar, so, as we said, so it's rather interesting.
Wouldn't like to run into one of those in the churchyard, would you?
Yes. And of course this is the beautiful Saxon stonework around the apse here, and I think it's rather lovely, don't you? The various
Beautiful
colours
colour.
of the stones.
Very rich.
Yes, can hardly believe it's been there all that time. And have you noticed that the gravestones are all orientated east to west, same as the church?
They are, aren't they? I hadn't noticed that.
And of course, that's another good example of the beautiful colours of the stones. And of course the church entrance here, this is a much later period, not the old Anglo-Saxon. And there, you see the height of the window there, very difficult for a raider to get in there, so it is a sanctuary in that sense. Well, it's a fascinating road that you've chosen. I hope you will be lucky in what you're doing, and I hope your children will be as enthusiastic as you are.
I'm sure they will. Thank you very much for showing me around.
And remember what Mr. Churchill said, if you don't know the history of a culture, you have no future.
I will. Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.